First of all, a very good morning to all of you. I miss our Army Chief, General Dwivedi, who was here a little while ago. But we have Air Chief Marshal R.K. Bhaduria, whom I have known for some time, Srimati Dipti Chawla, who is like a rock standing in the MOD, guiding all of us and the ministry. Lieutenant General Devendra Sharma, General Bakshi, he has been a great moral support for me personally and for industry with his experience. All the senior officials of the Indian Armed Forces, other serving officers, veterans, most importantly, Arnab Goswami and his team. When Arnab first contacted me about this conclave, I was a little hesitant. And I told Arnab, I'm not a person who is always in the media. I'm a little bit below the radar. But when he told me his plan about what he wants to do in terms of nation first and putting the armed forces ahead, in terms of Forces First Conclave, and as we have just concluded and seen what happened in Operation Sindoor, I thought this is something that we need to support. And I'm here not because I manufacture defense equipment. I'm not here to peddle any of our equipment, but I'm here because I believe as a manufacturer to people from the services, people from the MOD, to understand the other side, to understand what is happening in the world on the other side is equally important as the strategic imperatives that the Army Chief talked about. This place is a little nostalgic for me for two reasons. It was 12th of January 2016 that I was exactly in this room. The then Army Chief and his staff was sitting in the front row. I believe it was General Suhag at that time. And it was Sri Manohar Parrikar, who was then the Defense Minister, who was also there. And I was told to give an address because we had just formed the SIDM, the Society of Indian Defense Manufacturers, at the behest of the Honorable late Mr. Parrikar, because he wanted defense industry to come together in one form because he was quite tired of meeting defense industry from 5 different forums, CII, ASSOCHAM, FICCI, and all kinds of things. So that was the first one. But it was also an important event for us because we had already built our first artillery gun by then. We had actually built it in 2012 or late 2011. And we could not get permission till 2016 to fire this gun. Now, if you can't fire a gun, you don't know whether it works or doesn't work. It looks like a gun, but whether it works or doesn't work, you don't know. So I had some friends in the United States. I've told this story before, maybe some of you have heard it, but I think it's important to understand. I had some friends in the US, Armed Forces, General and some other people, at the Rock Island Arsenal, which is their main artillery manufacturing center. And I contacted them and I said, I have this problem, can you help me? So they said, send your gun, and you didn't have to send the whole gun, you just basically had to send the ordnance to get it tested. And they said they will put it on a stand and test it and give it back to me. Believe it or not, including the permission from their DOD including the permission of ITAR that was required to get this done, including them to get ammunition for firing to test, including taking it to the artillery ranges and testing it and sending me a report and a video. They did all this in 45 days. The same thing here takes about 45 months. And I played that video here to the Defense Minister, late Manohar Parrikar, and to all the top brass of the army. And I said, this is what happened. In 2 days, Manohar Parrikar ji, in his style, being an engineer himself, issued an order that all testing for the private sector will be done in the army ranges. And he issued an online system for doing it. That was the beginning of anybody in India, including us, starting to make artillery. I think this is an important story to understand because honestly, going forward, and I will explain to you why, you don't have the luxury of time on your hand. With the geopolitical situations that are hanging around us, I won't go into Operation Sindoor, but I only want to say that that was a remarkable piece of strategy, decision making at the highest level, and execution by the armed forces. Amazing. My salute to all the armed forces, the Army, Navy, and Air Force for making our nation proud, making this happen. But today we are witnessing a global situation where, with the change in presidency in the United States, anything and everything is being used as a weapon. It's not real weapons that are being used as weapons. Money is being used as weapon, trade is being used as weapon, import-export is being used as weapon, technology is being used as weapon. You can see the chip wars going on between China and India. Very soon it will affect us. So everything is getting weaponized. Now, if everything gets weaponized, the only way a country can survive and country can grow to its economic, let's say, ability and prowess is by becoming Atmanirbhar. So Atmanirbhar doesn't mean that it's just indigenization or just stopping import. No. Atmanirbhar means to create that power within yourself that nobody can tell you what to do or what not to do. And for this, the most important thing is going to be speed going forward. You need to do things at speed. The speed at which technologies are changing. I mean, we are developing today more than 100 different products for the Indian Armed Forces. More than 100. We have developed more than 12 different artillery platforms. And I'll tell you a little more about what kind of platforms in light of what the Army Chief talked about in terms of autonomy, etc. But bear in mind that we have almost, he talked about a 2.5 war. That is the physical war. You have two borders and a half war that is taking place with all these insurgents and all these other guys. But you have 10 times those wars happening on account of the other challenges that you have. The 50% tariff on Indian goods. That's a war on our economy. You like it or not, that's a war on our economy. Our business, 60% of our business is exports to the US. And with 50% tariff, for any other person, it would be almost impossible. But we have still managed to hold on to our business in a large way, not 100%, but pretty much a large way, because our technology content in our business is extremely high. Somebody was telling me when we were having a tea break, I forget the name, that Czechoslovakia has a very high level of metallurgy. Military land systems equipment is all about metallurgy, materials. You buy a gun, you buy a tank, you buy artillery, and if that thing starts flowering out when you fire, you got a big problem. And that's all metallurgy. Similarly, you buy aircrafts, you don't want components to fail. You have helicopters, you don't want gearboxes to fail. It's all metallurgy. And believe me, India is the cradle of metallurgical knowledge. We all forget. We all like to go to the West and think that the West has better metallurgy and better knowledge than us. I mean, a couple of thousand years ago, we were producing metals. And somehow, with the Mughal wars and the British occupation, I think a lot of this was lost. But it's coming back in a big way. If you look at the geopolitical situations, you've heard that America is pushing NATO to increase its defense spending to 5% of its GDP. They are currently at about 2%. So they not only have to double, they have to make it 2.5 times. Now each country is trying to do this, and they have run into a big roadblock. And the big roadblock is they don't have technical manpower to do this. We all thought countries like Germany is the cradle of technology, cradle of engineering. They were, no doubt about it. Not anymore. Not that we have overtaken Germany, I'm not saying that. But they are no more cradle of technology. Germans want 50,000 engineers from India every year. Even with that, they will not be able to produce 5% of GDP. So the point I'm trying to make is getting any supplies out of Europe for the next 10 to 15 years is almost impossible, because their capacities are overfull. They need to, after seeing the 3-year Ukraine war and the conflict of Israel and Hamas and so many other conflicts, 90 different conflicts that are going on as per what General Dwivedi told us, the Army Chief told us today. And none of these conflicts are going to last just 4 days. We were lucky with Operation Sindoor that it got over in less than 90 hours. That was, I think, our smartness and our planning and our execution. And all kudos to all of you who made it happen. And of course, our equipment. I think we have the man sitting here who is to make the BrahMos. Amazing weapon. Heartiest congratulations on that. Similarly, in the US, they have given all their shells, artillery shells, to Ukraine. And currently they can't even make 15,000 shells per month. You can read this on the internet. What I'm telling you is not something out of the sky. We were last week in the United States for the AUSA, the AUSA meeting, which is the meeting of all the military hardware manufacturers. And 3 companies in the US are after us to come and set up an ammunition plant in the US. We have a forging manufacturing plant in the US. They say convert this to make ammunition. That is the story. So fundamentally what we need to do and what we need to change in India is we need to change our processes. We are process driven, not end objective driven. If we were end objective driven, we would be like BrahMos. BrahMos was the only company that was end objective driven. And Hats off to all the CEOs that were there in that company who made that into a success. India needs to become a products nation, not a process nation. We are still a process nation. We give more importance to process than product. If there is a single tender somewhere, there will always be a question. Why single tender? Please find out another guy who can also quote for this and give us finding out what the price is, the real price is. There are many ways of finding out what the real price is. And as a result of which, the process can get delayed. We are running with age-old processes of things called FOPM. FOPM is, we got the ATAX order in January of this year for 180 guns. I don't know why 180 guns when they really want almost 1,000 guns. And now we are told that we have to do FOPM, first of production model. And the first of production model, you can only order material after you get the first order. You can't even order it before. And the lead time for materials in today's world is anywhere between 4 months to 6 months. So the FOPM will be done. After FOPM is done, and this is after 7 years of the gun getting tried in Sikkim, Leh, Ladakh, Arunachal Pradesh, Pokhran, plus 50 degrees temperature, minus 40 degrees temperature everywhere. This is the story. And I think it's time. I think all of you understand the importance of this. Because when a problem comes on our door, the one thing we will not have, we will have everything. We have the best soldiers on this planet. We have the best forces on this planet. We have the best leadership on our forces, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force. Our Air Force is working with, 4 or 5 squadrons less, Air Marshal? But still working well with all the courage and conviction. Hopefully this problem will get solved now. But all this is connected with time, and time is an element that none of us have. So we have to figure out how to make things happen fast, how to make things, in today's world of AI, digital, you can design a product from scratch. I'll give you an example of an FICV. FICV is the Fighting Infantry Combat Vehicle. It's got a 30 millimeter gun. It carries about 11 troops in it. It's got armor plating and everything on top. And it's got some RCWS with a gun on top, and it's got some missiles, a lot of electronics and a lot of things. Now all this is made here today. You don't have to import anything. Everything is made in this country. So you should be able, if you want FICVs, you want to modernize your BMPs, or you want to modernize anything else, you should be able to do it in less than 18 to 24 months. It doesn't have to be a 7-year program. Because in a 7-year program, the technology will be very different. And you won't be able to use what you are making. So this is from a manufacturer's perspective, is what I'm telling you, and what we are seeing in the outside world. We go to every exhibition all over the place. And this is what we are seeing. Even a country like the UAE, Abu Dhabi, is now moving ahead of India in terms of technology in the military. Because they make fast decisions. If you go to the IDEX in Abu Dhabi, which is going to happen in the next few months, you will see the technology, especially on drones and unmanned systems and all these cyber-related products that the Army Chief was talking about. Now let me come back. This is just to give you a perspective of what's happening in the rest of the world. And let me come back to where we are today. When we designed the ATAGs with the help of DRDO, first of all, let us understand that India has, between DRDO, CSIR, and other laboratories of the Indian government, one of the most brilliant scientists on this planet. Okay, the IITs, you name it. One of the brilliant scientists. They can just do amazing work. When we designed the ATAGs with DRDO, this was done with the help of the DRDO's lab in Pune, the ARDE lab. First time the gun was designed as a software-driven gun. Nobody knows this because the gun hasn't been given to the army yet for exploitation. So nobody knows this. It's a software-driven gun. That means it's completely autonomous. It can withstand all the cyber systems that can knock you off or whatever it is. But you can operate 18 guns in 18 different directions remotely just with one control, just with autonomous control. We have exported ATAGs to Armenia. Armenia is not a very high-tech country or, not a highly developed country, but some smart engineers there. So they have even taken it one step forward. They fired the ATAGs and they found that at 45 kilometers, that's our official maximum firing range for standard ammunition. Actually, it is 48. It's the longest range in the world for a 52 caliber gun. Normal 52 caliber guns fire at 41 kilometers. They found the CEP at 45 kilometers to be 50 meters. 50 meters of 150 feet. And they found that this gun has all these software capabilities. And it's an electric-driven gun. It's like a machine tool with ball screws. So they put a new technology, which we are now incorporating for the Indian Army. They put a little bird on it, that size, with a camera and communication to the gun. Send the bird up, check where the first shot fell, and automatically send the correction signal to the gun, and the gun corrected it in seconds. So when the second shot falls, accurate. The result is you have to fire less than 50% of the shots to get the same effect. So there are so many technologies that we have which we can exploit. I'm just giving one example. There are many, many more that we can exploit to make the Indian Armed Forces much stronger, much capable to fight, whether it's a 2.5 dimension war or whether it's a multi-dimension war. And all this is produced indigenously. Not a single component in that gun comes from outside. And all this was done almost 7 years ago, but took a long time for it to get through. And I think General Bakshi knows the whole story of what happened there. So this is, my message. We live, and we are going to continue to live at least for the next 3.5 years till the current US presidency remains in the White House, in a situation where every day you're going to get a new message, and that new message keeps confusing at least people like me. It may not confuse the leadership because they know what's going on, but it confuses people like us who are in the business. It confuses our customers there because they don't know what to do. So we found a very clever way to get around this. We said, let's convert half of our plants for military, for defense. And that solves the problem, because when you do that, and in the US, so when you do that, you have a different product mix, you have a new customer, and you are a US supplier. And we are trying to do the same thing in Europe. So The message is that please don't depend on outside. Please do things yourselves. Of course, we can't do 100% of the things ourselves. We all know that. We have to be practical about it. But I like that yesterday or day before yesterday, the Honorable Defense Minister inaugurated the new LCA Mark 1A in Nasik. That is good. That's a very good next step. And I also like the idea of the second generation fighter being put for bidding to the private sector. We are also one of the bidders in the consortium, not alone. We will see where it goes. We do a lot of work for the Indian Navy. We do a lot of unmanned systems, underwater, on land, over air. We have all kinds of things that we have got. But to take advantage of, and I'm not the only one, there are hundreds of companies like me who are in this business, small and big, from the industry side. Their biggest problem is they don't get decisions in time. If we can make decisions in time, and if we don't have to repeat the 12th of January episode that I just talked to you about here. I mean, that was 2016, we are in 2025. I have yet to sell one gun to the Indian Army. And I have sold 100 guns to Europe already. I think that's absolutely the message. My grateful thanks to Arnab, the Republic team. Again, our gratefulness as a nation to our armed forces, to our Ministry of Defense, the people who run that ministry, and to everybody else who takes care of our country and protects it. Because if the country doesn't remain strong, and if we have problems every now and then the economy will never become stronger. So this is the only message that I have. I had a written message, but I then changed it after hearing what the Army Chief talked about. I thought it was more relevant to give it in terms of context. So many, many thanks to all of you. Best of luck. Happy Diwali and Jai Hind.